We need fresh talent who can exceed expectations, Vincent declared coldly while sliding the termination papers across the polished conference table. Your methods are outdated. My name's Harrison Keller, 48 years old, 11 years as Senior Regional Manager at Pinnacle Solutions in Charlotte, North Carolina. I'd spent over a decade building a client portfolio that generated nearly 45% of the company's revenue. I accepted the decision gracefully, thanked him for the opportunity, and walked out without argument. Vincent Harding had arrived 8 months ago as our new Director of Operations, brought in by the CEO to modernize the department. He wore expensive watches, spoke in corporate buzzwords, and had never once accompanied me on a client visit. 6 weeks after starting, he'd implemented a new performance metric system that somehow rated my consistent results as below expectations despite my numbers being the strongest in the company. I packed 11 years into 2 cardboard boxes, family photos, a trophy from our biggest contract win, and a leather portfolio containing client contact information I'd maintained separately from the company system. Just good practice, really. On the elevator ride down, I stood next to Gregory Sinclair, our CEO. He nodded without really seeing me, too focused on his phone. He had no idea what Vincent had just done or what it would mean for next quarter's projections. But he would learn soon enough. Walking to my car, I didn't feel anger, just a strange sense of clarity, like waking up from a comfortable dream to realize the house was never really yours to begin with. My phone buzzed as I pulled into my driveway. Kenneth Walsh, my biggest client. The annual contract renewal was next week. He'd texted about dinner when he'd be in town. He didn't know yet. Nobody did. I set the phone on the kitchen counter without answering and poured myself bourbon. 11 years of client relationships, all built on my word and my reliability. Vincent didn't just fire an employee today, he'd severed the only connection between Pinnacle and millions in revenue, and he had no idea. For 8 years, Gregory had been right to trust me. I built our client base from regional businesses to national accounts. Extended contracts from 1-year terms to 3- and 5-year deals. Brought in Infinity Tech Systems when they left our biggest competitor. Added the Blackstone Group when nobody thought we had a chance. 3 promotions, 2 office expansions, and 1 recession later, Pinnacle had grown from a $6 million operation to a $35 million enterprise, with my accounts responsible for about $16 million of that. Not that anyone had calculated the exact percentage until Vincent arrived. The first warning sign appeared during a quarterly review meeting 4 months after Vincent took over operations. Your client acquisition rate has stagnated, he said, pointing to a chart showing I'd only added 1 new account that quarter. Because I'm focused on expanding existing relationships, I explained. The Infinity Tech Systems contract just tripled in value. The future is in new business development, Vincent insisted. We need hunters, not farmers. Last month, he hired Jessica Torres, 27, from a consulting firm. During her first week, she was assigned to shadow me on a call with Kenneth Walsh. No explanation, no proper introduction, just learning the ropes. Kenneth noticed. After the call, he texted me, "Who's the new associate? Are you training a replacement?" I laughed it off. Just expanding the team. But driving home that night, I felt something shift in my gut. The kind of certainty that comes from years of reading boardrooms and client faces. Something wasn't right. If you're enjoying watching corporate arrogance slowly unravel, make sure to subscribe, because Vincent's about to learn that some mistakes cost millions. I should have trusted that feeling sooner. I pulled out my personal phone and scrolled through my contacts. 11 years of relationships, over 300 clients, vendors, and industry connections. People who trusted me to handle their business. People who'd signed with Pinnacle because of me, not our corporate marketing or downtown office. The irony wasn't lost on me. Vincent had spent months questioning my methods, calling them outdated. But those outdated methods had built something Vincent couldn't understand. Genuine trust. I remembered the late-night calls from Kenneth when Infinity Tech Systems faced a production crisis. The emergency meetings with Patricia Blackstone when regulatory changes threatened their timeline. The personal visits to Robert Westfield's facility when their expansion required custom solutions. My work phone, now sitting disabled in the box, contained only the official correspondence. The dinner invitations, the golf outings, the personal cell numbers of CEOs and decision-makers, those were all here on my personal device. Information accumulated through years of being someone people genuinely wanted to work with, not just someone they had to tolerate. I opened my laptop and reviewed my employment contract. The non-compete clause was there, but limited in scope. 18 months, and only applicable if I left voluntarily. Being terminated changed things. There was no legal barrier to taking my clients elsewhere. My phone buzzed. Kenneth again. Dinner reservation confirmed for Friday, looking forward to discussing the renewal. I stared at the message for a long time. Kenneth Walsh represented $2.1 million in annual business for Pinnacle. His company, Infinity Tech Systems, had been with me for 7 years, and he wasn't alone. The Blackstone Group, Westfield Enterprises, Carlton Holdings, together they accounted for another $8.4 million. All of them had contract renewals coming up in the next 45 days. All of them dealt exclusively through me. I set my glass down and made a decision. I wouldn't call anyone tonight, wouldn't send angry emails or make threats. I'd sleep on it, wake up clear-headed, and then make exactly 4 phone calls. Not to vent or complain, just to inform my closest clients that I was no longer with Pinnacle, effective immediately. The rest would happen on its own. I made my 4 calls the next morning. No dramatics, just facts. Kenneth, I'm no longer with Pinnacle as of yesterday. Wanted you to hear it from me directly. His response was immediate. What happened? Who's handling our account now? Vincent Harding will probably reach out, or maybe Jessica Torres. A long pause. The girl from last week's meeting? She doesn't know our business. That's all I can tell you. The rest is your decision. Similar conversations with Patricia Blackstone, Robert Westfield, and Michael Carlton. No suggestions, no recruitment pitch. Just information delivered with the same reliability they'd come to expect from me. By noon, my personal phone was buzzing constantly. Other clients had heard the industry was small that way. At 2 p.m., Gregory Sinclair called. I let it go to voicemail. Harrison, this is Gregory. We need to discuss your transition. Several clients are expressing concerns. Please call me back immediately. I didn't. Instead, I drove downtown to meet with Douglas Chen, an attorney who specialized in employment law. I'd helped his firm secure a major contract 4 years ago. They can't stop you from working, Douglas confirmed after reviewing my termination papers. But they'll try to intimidate your clients. Prepare for that. By 4 p.m., Pinnacle's legal department had emailed a reminder about confidentiality obligations. By 5 p.m., Vincent had texted, "Let's discuss your severance package. There might be room for consulting work." Too late. My phone buzzed again at 6 p.m. Kenneth, just got off a call with your CEO and that director who fired you. They promised seamless transition, said Jessica would handle everything personally. Then they offered a 15% discount on renewal. What did you tell them? I asked. That I'd consider it. I said nothing. Harrison, Kenneth continued, I've sent notice terminating our contract, citing change in account management. Blackstone and Carlton did the same. Still, I said nothing. Where are you landing? Because wherever it is, that's where our business is going. That night, 5 more companies from my portfolio sent termination notices to Pinnacle. By morning, the total was 12, representing over $10.8 million in contracts. The aftermath was swift and brutal. Word spread through industry networks like wildfire. Harrison Keller was out at Pinnacle and the clients were following. I knew how these things worked. In our business, reputation traveled faster than official announcements. Competitors would be circling by noon, trying to understand what had happened and whether they could capitalize on the chaos. Gregory called an emergency board meeting. I know because Rachel, my former assistant, texted me. Complete chaos here. Vincent trying to blame you for client interference. CEO asking why nobody saw this coming. The panic in her message was almost palpable. Vincent had gone from confident modernizer to scapegoat in less than 48 hours. My phone rang again, a number I didn't recognize. Harrison Keller? Speaking. This is William Crawford, Crawford and Associates. A competitor. Smaller firm, better reputation. I hear you're available and several mutual friends speak highly of you. I'm listening. Senior partner position, 7-figure signing bonus, full autonomy to manage your portfolio and equity participation. When could you start? How's Monday sound? I accepted on the spot, not out of urgency or desperation, but because it was exactly what I wanted. Respect, autonomy, and recognition of the value I brought. That afternoon, Vincent texted again. Board-approved retention package, full salary for 8 months plus stock options. Just help us transition your accounts. I didn't respond. There was nothing to say. They'd had 11 years to value what I built. Now they were scrambling to put a price on it after the fact. Too little. Far too late. 1 week into my new role at Crawford and Associates, Rachel called me from a personal number. You need to know what happened, she said. It wasn't just Vincent wanting his own people. I sat in my new corner office, larger than the one at Pinnacle, and listened as 11 years of history reshuffled into a clearer picture. They were planning to sell the firm, Rachel explained. Sterling Capital made an offer 3 months ago, but with conditions. They wanted to bring in their own account managers for major clients, integrate them with their existing portfolio companies. The pieces clicked into place. Vincent hadn't been hired to grow operations. He'd been brought in to transition accounts away from me, making them company assets rather than relationships tied to a single executive. My termination wasn't about performance. It was preparation for acquisition. Yesterday they pulled the offer. Sterling won't buy without the client base you built. After we hung up, I sat still for a long time. 11 years of loyalty, and they'd been willing to detach me from my clients like removing a middleman. Not because I failed, because I succeeded too well. The relationships were too strong, too personal. They needed me gone before clients could be repackaged as corporate assets. What Vincent didn't understand was that business relationships in our industry weren't built on PowerPoint presentations or quarterly metrics. They were built on trust earned through crisis management, late-night problem-solving, and consistent delivery when everything else failed. You couldn't replace that with fresh talent and corporate restructuring. The market had just taught him that lesson in the most expensive way possible. I opened my laptop and checked my email. More former clients had reached out. The industry was humming with the news. Harrison Keller had moved to Crawford and Associates, and clients were following. Pinnacle's stock had dropped 18% in 6 days. My phone buzzed. Kenneth Walsh. Heard about the partnership. Congratulations, knew you'd land on your feet. Thanks to clients like you. No, he corrected. Thanks to you being who you are. We just followed the value. I shut down my computer, picked up my keys, and walked out to meet my wife, Sandra. We had tickets to our daughter's college graduation, something I wouldn't have made time for in my previous life. Some losses clear the way for better victories. Some fires burn away what needs to go. I'd never been more certain of that than I was today. My phone buzzed with the text from Gregory. Can we meet? Just you and me. No lawyers. I finally texted Gregory back. No meeting necessary. I understand the Sterling situation completely. His response came quickly. It was a business decision, Harrison. Nothing personal. But it was personal. 11 years of building relationships, of knowing clients' kids' names and their vacation spots, of answering calls on weekends and holidays, all reduced to an impediment for a corporate transaction. Crawford had already signed contracts with 15 of my former clients, representing nearly $12 million in annual revenue, and more were coming. Not because I was recruiting them, but because in this business trust followed people, not logos or corporate strategies. Pinnacle hadn't just lost a manager. They'd lost the foundation their growth was built upon, and they still didn't fully understand why. 6 months after my termination, I stood in Crawford's largest conference room, surrounded by my team and the company's leadership. On the screen behind me, a single slide displayed our quarterly results: $18.7 million in new business, 85% from former Pinnacle clients. William Crawford himself raised a glass. To the best acquisition we've ever made, and we didn't even have to buy a company to get it. My phone buzzed with a news alert. Pinnacle Solutions announces CEO transition. Gregory Sinclair steps down amid continued revenue challenges. I slipped the phone back into my pocket without showing anyone. Some victories don't need an audience. 1 year to the day after Vincent had slid those termination papers across the conference table, I signed the final documents, making me a full partner at Crawford & Associates. The firm had grown 47% since my arrival. My client portfolio now represented nearly $28 million in annual revenue. That morning, I'd approved hiring 4 new account managers, all with the same profit-sharing structure I'd negotiated for myself. No one would build something here only to have it taken away.